The string object in Python supports a lot of standard methods. We're going to take a look at just some of them here. We'll start with a string, and I'm going to go ahead and put it in a variable and say this is a string. You'll notice that's all lowercase. And if we just look at the string by itself, it looks like that. If I say capitalize, then we get it with just the first letter capitalized. If I want all the letters capitalized, I can say upper, and there's certainly a lot of use for that. Likewise, I can say lower. Of course, it was all lowercase before, so if I had this is a string in all uppercase, I can say dot lower, and we'll see that we get the lowercase version of that. I can also say swap case, so if I had this is a string, sort of title case-ish, I say swap case, then I get it in the opposite case. Now if I take our string, which says this is a string, and I want to find a particular word in it, I can look for, say, the word is, and it will find it at position 2. And you might look here and you might say, well, is at position 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But in fact, it found this. So it's looking for exactly that string, and the first occurrence of it is the one that will get returned. And so the first letter is 0, the second letter is 1, and then is starts at position 2. You can also do string replace. I can say s.replace this for that, and it'll say that is a string. Now it's important to note that the string itself is immutable, so the string has not changed. What these functions do is they return a different string, and it's an entirely different string object that gets returned. For example, if I look at the ID of s, I'll see that its ID is that number there. And if I say new string equals s dot upper, I now have a new string, which is the uppercase string. It's that different string that was returned by the upper method. If I look at the ID of new string, you see that it's entirely different than the ID of this is a string. So there's a few more useful ones. There's strip. I say s.strip. What strip does is it strips a particular sequence of characters from both the end of the string and the beginning of the string. By default, what it strips is white space. So if I have a string that says this is a string, like that, with a bunch of white space at the beginning and the end of it, and I say dot strip, I'll get back the string without that white space at the beginning and the ending of that. And so what this is very commonly used for is removing new lines, but you need to be aware when you use it for that it will also remove any leading space. If you want to just remove white space from the end of a string, you can use rstrip. And that will remove the white space from the end of a string and not change anything at the beginning of a string. And if you just want to remove a new line, let's say we have a string, I'm going to put this in a variable because we're going to use it a couple of times, and say s1 equals, this is a string with a new line at the end of it. I said sting instead of string, that'll work. And there we see we have the string with a new line at the end of it. If I say s1.strip, of course it will remove the new line, and that's very useful, but it'll also remove any white space from the beginning or the end. If I just want to remove the new line from the end, I can actually say s1.rstrip and specify the new line. So whatever string you specify, parentheses, is what will be stripped. And there we have it with just the new line taken from just the end of the string. There's also a set of methods for testing the content of a string really quickly. We'll look at these. We can say s.isAllNum. And what that is that checks if the string has only alphanumeric characters in it. And of course this is false because it also has spaces in it. If I have a string that looks like this is a string and it has no spaces in it, and I say .alnum, then it'll come up true. I must have spelled something wrong. I did. This is a string .isAl, and that comes up true. So these methods that start with is, there's a bunch of them. I'm just going to show you a few. There's isAlpha. This is a string .isAlpha, and that checks just for alpha characters. So that would be the letters A through Z or other alpha characters in other text encodings besides just ASCII. And there's also one for checking if it is digit. And so if I have a string that's just digits and say is digit, that one will come up true. But if I check s dot is digit, it will, of course, come up false. And finally, there is printable, which checks to see if all the characters in the string are printable. So those are some of the most common and most popular methods that are available for the string class.